Commander Alara Chen stood tall as she entered the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The massive room was shaped like a circle with 12 large seats arranged around a central platform. This was where the most powerful alien species in the galaxy made their decisions. Humans had only been allowed to join 50 years ago, making them the newest and youngest members. The air in the chamber felt cold. The other council members stared at her, their many different eyes showing no warmth. Some had multiple eyes, others had skin in blues and greens, and a few were not even solid but seemed like moving gas contained in special suits. Yet despite their differences, they all shared one thing today. None of them looked happy to see the human representative. High Counselor Vexthor rose from his seat. His tall, thin body towered over most other species. His gray skin shimmered under the lights, and the 3 yellow eyes on his face narrowed as he looked down at Commander Chen. The Council has reached a decision regarding humanity, Vexthor announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. For too long we have watched your kind break traditions, ignore our advice, and create chaos throughout our ordered galaxy. Commander Chen said nothing. She had expected this meeting would not go well. For years, the older alien species had complained about humans. They said humans moved too fast, built too quickly, and made friends with species the Council called lesser beings. Humans will now follow these new rules, Vexthor continued, showing a list that appeared in the air between them. First, your military ships must be reduced by 70%. Second, all new human technology must be shared with the Council before you can use it. Third, you may no longer speak with newly discovered species until we approve them. Murmurs of agreement spread around the room as the other council members nodded. They clearly thought they had won. Humans were just too troublesome, too unpredictable, too human. You have 30 solar rotations to agree to these terms, Vexthor said with a small smile, or humans will be removed from the Council and placed under our direct control as a protected species. The room fell silent. Everyone expected the human to beg, to argue, to try to make a deal. That's what humans always did, wasn't it? They always found some way to talk themselves out of trouble. Commander Chen looked around the room slowly, meeting the gaze of each council member. Some looked away, unable to hold her stare. Others watched with curiosity, wondering what trick the human might try. But Chen did something none of them expected. She reached up to the silver pin on her uniform, the symbol of council membership that all representatives wore, and removed it. The small clicking sound it made as she placed it on the table seemed impossibly loud in the silent chamber. Humanity does not need 30 days to consider this insult, she said calmly. We withdraw from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Gasps echoed around the room. One council member stood up in shock, knocking over a glass that shattered on the floor. You can't just leave, shouted Counselor Toprak of the Voltraxian Empire, his blue face turning almost purple. No species has ever withdrawn. And yet, that is exactly what we are doing, Chen replied. You have 72 hours to remove all your people, ships, and buildings from human space. After that time, any council presence will be considered unwelcome. Vexthor stepped down from his platform, suddenly looking less sure of himself. This was not how this meeting was supposed to go. Humans were supposed to bend to the Council's will, not walk away. Commander Chen, perhaps we can discuss. He started, but Chen cut him off. There is nothing to discuss. The Council has made its position clear, and so have I. Humanity will find its own path among the stars. As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the massive space station that housed the Council. Red lights flashed and voices called out over the communication system. What is happening? Demanded Vexthor, turning to his assistants who were rushing into the chamber. It's the humans, one assistant said, eyes wide with panic. All human ships across the galaxy are powering up. Military vessels, trade ships, science stations, they're all breaking formation and setting course for Earth. They can't coordinate something like that so quickly, argued another council member. It would take weeks to organize such a movement. Commander, Chen smiled slightly. We've had this plan in place for years. We hoped we wouldn't need it, but we prepared anyway. That's what humans do. We prepare for the worst, while hoping for the best. She turned and walked toward the exit, her back straight and her head held high. "Commander Chen," called Vexthor, finding his voice again. "If you leave now, do not expect to be welcomed back. The Council does not forgive such disrespect." Chen paused at the doorway and looked back over her shoulder. "We're not expecting to come back, High Counselor. And soon you'll be too busy dealing with all the problems we've been solving for you to worry about forgiveness." As she walked out, the emergency systems continued to blare. On screens around the chamber, Council members watched in shock as thousands of human ships across the galaxy changed course all at once, heading toward Earth in a mass exodus unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the observation deck above the Council chamber, Ambassador Nihilith of the Ashkari Dominion watched the human representative leave. Unlike the others, Nihilith's species could sense emotions, and what she felt from the human troubled her deeply. "They're not angry," she whispered to herself. "They're relieved." And somehow, that was much more worrying. As Commander Chen boarded her ship, she sent a simple message back to Earth. "It's done. Operation Homeward begins now." Across the stars, humanity was going home. And the galaxy would never be the same, in nigh. The days that followed, the Council tried to appear strong. They announced that the humans had made a foolish choice and would soon come crawling back. But in private meetings, the first whispers of concern began to spread. "The security patrols along the outer rim were mostly human ships," admitted the military advisor. "Those areas are now unprotected. The station's main reactor uses human maintenance techniques," added the station manager. "Our engineers don't fully understand their methods. 3 trade routes are already reporting problems," said the Commerce Minister. "The human merchants were the only ones willing to travel through those dangerous sectors." As reports continued to flood in, Vexthor stared out at the stars, watching the last human ships disappear into the distance. For the first time in his long life, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Had they just made a terrible mistake? 3 months had passed since the humans left the Galactic Council. At first, many council members had celebrated their departure. No more loud human voices arguing in meetings. No more human ships breaking protocol. No more humans making friends with species the Council considered primitive. But now, Councillor Toprak of the Voltraxian Empire was not celebrating. He stood in the massive mining facility on Helios 9, staring at the broken machinery that used to extract precious metals from the planet's core. "How long has it been down?" he asked the site manager, a tall Voltraxian with deep blue skin like his own. 2 weeks, High Counselor," the manager replied nervously. "We've tried everything we know, but the system won't restart. The human engineers designed parts of it in ways our people don't understand." Toprak frowned. This was not the only place facing such problems. All across Council space, machinery and systems that humans had helped build or maintain were beginning to fail. The elegant and precise Voltraxian engineers could build beautiful machines, but they followed strict rules and patterns. Humans, on the other hand, were masters of what they called improvising, finding unusual solutions to problems. "Have we contacted any humans who might help?" Toprak asked, already knowing the answer. "We tried, Counselor. None will answer our calls." Toprak nodded slowly. Of course they wouldn't. The Council had made their position clear and humans had responded in kind. "Keep trying to fix it," he ordered. "This facility supplies metals for 15 star systems." As he walked back to his ship, Toprak looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the humans were gathered in their home system, doing who knows what. And here he was, watching as the first pieces of the great Galactic Council began to crumble. At the same time, far away at the diplomatic station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Ambassador Nihilith of the Ashkari Dominion was facing a different problem. Once a bustling gateway between human space and the rest of the galaxy, the station was now strangely quiet. Many shops had closed. Traffic had slowed to almost nothing. But today, the station was filled with angry voices. Representatives from the Krell Confederacy and the Jaxar Alliance were shouting at each other across the main meeting hall. Your ships entered our territory without permission, yelled the Krell representative, his scaled skin flushing red with anger. We have used that trade route for 2 centuries, countered the Jaxar diplomat, her forearms moving wildly as she spoke. Just because humans are gone doesn't mean you can claim it. Ambassador Nyleth stepped between them, trying to sense their emotions to better calm the situation. Both species were afraid and using anger to hide it. Without human traders moving between their territories and serving as neutral partners, old conflicts were returning. Please, Nyleth said calmly, we must find a peaceful solution. The Council can help establish new trade agreements that— The Council? Interrupted the Krell, laughing bitterly. The Council is why we're in this mess. They drove the humans away. The Jaxar diplomat nodded in rare agreement. For once, I agree with the Krell. Humans were the only ones all our people trusted, to be fair. Without them, we're being asked to trust the Council, who have always favored the older species. Nyleth had no answer for this. It was true. For all their chaotic ways, humans had been trusted by many of the younger species who felt the Council didn't respect them. As the ambassadors continued arguing, a young Ashkari aide rushed into the room and whispered urgently in Nyleth's ear. We've lost contact with Outpost Zeta in the Outer Rim, the aide said, voice shaking. It's the 3rd outpost this month to go silent. Nyleth felt a cold fear grip her heart. Everyone knew what that meant. The Harvesters, a violent species, from beyond Council space, were testing the borders. In the past, human military patrols had kept them away. Now, with those patrols gone, the Predators were moving in. Back in the Council chamber on Axis Prime, High Counselor Vexthor was trying to maintain order as reports of problems flooded in from across the galaxy. The humans have only been gone for 3 months, he said firmly. These are temporary adjustment issues. The galaxy will stabilize once systems are properly realigned to function without human interference. But High Counselor, argued Delvac of the Solari hierarchy, our analysts predict severe shortages in at least 40 systems within the next month. The human trading network was handling nearly 30% of all food distribution. And what about the Harvester sightings? Added another council member. Without the human fleet patrolling the Outer Rim, enough. Vexthor slammed his hand on the table. We ruled the galaxy long before humans emerged from their little planet. We can certainly manage without them now. Just as he finished speaking, the lights in the council chamber flickered and went out. Emergency lighting came on moments later, bathing the room in a dim red glow. What now? Demanded Vexthor. The chief engineer hurried into the chamber looking worried. The main power system has failed, High Counselor. The backup systems are working, but they won't last more than a few days without repairs. So fix it, Vexthor ordered. The engineer looked down. We're trying, but the system was designed with human components. Our technicians don't fully understand how they integrate with our technology. Vexthor felt the eyes of every council member on him. The humans had been gone for only 3 months, and already the council's own chamber couldn't keep the lights on. In the silence that followed, the usually quiet Quarian delegate spoke up. Quarians rarely offered opinions, preferring to observe and analyze. Perhaps, the Quarian said softly, its voice like rustling leaves, we underestimated the humans' contribution to our civilization. As if to emphasize the point, the emergency lights flickered ominously. Far away at the edge of what used to be council space, a small observation post monitored the border. Inside, Officer Kren watched his screens with growing concern. Another human transport ship, he noted, marking it on his log. That's the 20th today. His partner, Officer Mira, looked over his shoulder at the readings. Where are they all going? Home, Kren replied simply. Every human ship from all corners of the galaxy is returning to their home system. It's like they're preparing for something. On the screen, they watched as the transport ship disappeared into the protected zone around Earth's solar system. Reports said that humans had established some kind of energy barrier at the edge of their system, technology the Council had thought impossible. What do you think they're doing in there? Mira asked quietly. Kren shook his head. I don't know. But whatever it is, I hope they finish before the Harvesters reach this sector. Without human military support, the outer colonies don't stand a chance. As they watched, another alert appeared on their screen. 3 more outposts had just gone dark. The harvesters were getting closer, and the humans, for the first time in 50 years, were nowhere to be found. 6 months had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. The problems that had seemed small at first were now growing into major crises across Council space. But what worried Council leaders most was the complete silence from Earth. Council enforcer Draxel stood on the bridge of his stealth vessel, the Shadow Sight. His mission was simple: observe the edge of human space and report back what he saw. The ship floated silently at a safe distance from the strange energy barrier humans had created around their entire solar system. Any changes, Officer Zinn? Draxel asked his science officer, a thin, blue-skinned Medusan with large, sensitive eyes perfect for detecting energy patterns. Zinn adjusted the sensors carefully. The barrier is unlike anything in our records, Commander. It seems to bend space itself around their system. Our sensors can barely penetrate it. Draxel frowned. Can you tell what they're doing in there? Somewhat, Zinn replied, bringing up a blurry image on the main screen. There are massive construction projects throughout their system, especially around Mars and Jupiter's moons. The screen showed distant images of what looked like giant scaffolding around Mars. Thousands of small ships moved between larger structures in patterns that suggested organized building work. They're creating something new, Zinn whispered, eyes wide with wonder and fear. The energy readings are unusual, unlike anything in our database. Draxel studied the images. In just 6 months, the humans had built structures that would have taken other species years to complete. What were they preparing for? Keep watching, he ordered, and stay beyond their detection range. The Council needs to know what... A junior officer interrupted, rushing onto the bridge. Commander, urgent message from Council headquarters. Draxel took the message tablet and read it quickly, his expression growing darker with each word. The Harvesters have launched a major attack against the Trellics Collective. 3 colony worlds are already lost. The Trellics? Asked Zinn, surprised. They're full Council members. Surely our fleet will protect them. Draxel shook his head. The message says our fleet is spread too thin without human military support. They can't reach the Trellics worlds in time. Both officers fell silent, understanding what this meant. Without humans patrolling the Outer Rim, the Council's defensive strategy had fallen apart. The Harvesters, always waiting for weakness, had found it. The Trellics were close allies with the humans, Zinn noted quietly. Perhaps they could ask for help? The Council would never approve, Draxel replied, but he wondered if the Trellics might try anyway. 3 days later, at a different section of the barrier surrounding human space, a small diplomatic vessel approached cautiously. The ship bore the distinctive coral-like patterns of the Trellics Collective, a species of ocean-dwelling beings who had built their civilization in harmony with the waters of their homeworld. Inside the ship, Counselor Elamra of the Trellics looked out at the shimmering barrier with a mixture of hope and fear. The Trellics had always gotten along well with humans. They shared similar values about protecting environments and helping younger species. Now, with harvester ships attacking, Trellics colonies and the Council unable to help, Elamra had made a desperate decision. We've been broadcasting our request for 3 days, said his pilot nervously. They haven't responded. Perhaps they can't hear us through the barrier. They can hear us, Elamra replied calmly. Humans have excellent technology. They're just deciding whether to answer. As if confirming his words, a section of the energy barrier suddenly shimmered and parted, creating a small opening. Through this gap came a single human shuttle, sleek and black with no identifying marks. They've come, whispered the pilot in surprise. Elamra nodded. Prepare the docking bay. Minutes later, the human shuttle had docked with their ship. The airlock opened to reveal a tall human woman in a dark blue uniform with silver stars on the shoulders. Her hair was gray, and her face showed age lines, but her eyes were sharp and clear. Admiral Helena Chen, she introduced herself. Commander of Earth Defense Force. Elamra recognized the name. You are related to Commander Elara Chen? She is my daughter, the Admiral confirmed. Now, Counselor Ilamra, why have you come to human space? We made our position clear when we left the Council. We need help, Ilamra said simply. The harvesters have attacked 3 of our worlds. The Council fleet can't reach us in time. Millions of my people are in danger. Admiral Chen's face remained calm, but her eyes hardened. We are no longer. Council members, Counselor, your wars are not our concern. But we were friends, Ilamra pleaded. The Trellics always supported humans in the Council. We opposed the restrictions they tried to place on you. Friendship wasn't enough for you to stand with us when we left, the Admiral replied coldly. Ilamra looked down. It was true. The Trellics had remained with the Council despite their disagreement with the treatment of humans. There's something else you should know, Ilamra said, retrieving a data crystal from his robes. The harvesters are using weapons based on human technology. That's impossible, Admiral Chen said sharply. We never shared military technology with them. Not willingly, Ilamra agreed, placing the crystal in a reader. Images appeared showing harvester ships firing weapons with a distinctive blue energy signature, a hallmark of human design. Our intelligence suggests corrupt Council officials sold them the technology, Ilamra explained. They thought controlling human innovation was more important than keeping it from enemies. Something dangerous flashed in the Admiral's eyes. Humans were known for their strong reactions to betrayal. That, she said quietly, changes the calculation. She studied the images for a long moment before looking back at Ilamra. Return to your people, Counselor. Tell them to hold their position and not to surrender. Does this mean you'll help us? Ilamra asked hopefully. Admiral Chen didn't answer directly. The misuse of human technology is our concern. We will address it. She turned to leave, but stopped at the doorway. And Counselor, when you speak to the Council, don't mention this meeting. Back on the Council homeworld, High Counselor Vexthor was facing growing pressure as more reports of harvester attacks arrived. The Trellics Collective has lost contact with their colony on Aquarius Prime, reported a military officer. That's the 4th world this month. Vexthor stared at the star map, watching as more systems turned red, marking them as under attack, or already fallen to the harvesters. Where is the Trellics Counselor, he demanded. Ilamra should be here for these discussions. His ship left 3 days ago, an aide explained. He said he was seeking alternative solutions to protect his people. Vexthor's eyes narrowed suspiciously. What alternatives? The Council is the only authority in this part of the galaxy. No one answered, but many in the room were thinking the same thing. Not anymore. Not since the humans left. Send a message to all Council worlds, Vexthor ordered. Any contact with human space without Council approval will be considered a violation of Council law. As the aides hurried to obey, Vexthor turned back to the star map. The red areas were spreading faster than he wanted to admit. Without the human fleet helping to defend the borders, the harvesters were advancing further into Council space than ever before. For the first time, he allowed himself to consider a troubling thought. What if the humans had been right to leave? What if the Council's need to control everything had cost them their best defenders? 3 days later, a harvester fleet approached the Trellics colony world of New Oceania. The planet's blue surface, mostly covered in water, gleamed like a jewel in space. 2 million Trellics lived in its vast underwater cities, with no way to escape the approaching enemy. As the harvester ships moved into attack position, their sensors detected something strange. Small objects appeared in orbit around the planet. Black, cylindrical devices that seemed to activate as soon as the harvesters came within range. The harvester commander ordered his ships to destroy these unknown objects, but before they could fire, the devices released a pulse of energy that spread across the planet, forming a shimmering barrier just like the one surrounding human space. When the harvesters fired their weapons, the energy blasts simply vanished against the barrier, unable to penetrate it. In confusion, the harvester commander ordered a full retreat, but as his ships turned, a message appeared on all their communication channels. This world is under protection. The misuse of human technology will not be tolerated. There was no signature, no indication of who had sent the message. But as the harvesters fled, a single black ship briefly appeared at the edge of their sensor range before vanishing again. A human ship. 9 months had passed since the humans departed from the Galactic Council. What had begun as an annoyance for the Council had grown into a series of crises that threatened the entire galactic order. Food shortages affected dozens of worlds. Transportation networks were breaking down, and worst of all, the harvester invasions continued to push deeper into Council space. But now, strange rumors were spreading across the galaxy. Stories of mysterious rescues. Tales of black ships that appeared without warning to evacuate people from worlds about to fall to the harvesters. On the Council homeworld of Axis Prime, these rumors had reached even the highest levels of government. High Counselor Vexthor had called an emergency meeting with all Council chambers sealed and guards posted outside to ensure complete privacy. "Is it true?" Vexthor demanded, looking around the table at the 11 other Council members. "Are humans interfering in Council space?" Counselor Toprak of the Voltraxians cleared his throat nervously. "We have reports from 3 different systems. When harvester ships approached, unknown vessels arrived to evacuate civilians. Survivors describe humans in black armor." "Where are they taking these people?" asked another Council member. "We don't know," Toprak admitted. "The refugees simply disappear." Vexthor slammed his fist on the table. "This is unacceptable. Humans cannot simply enter Council space and remove citizens without permission." Ambassador Nylith of the Ashkari spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "With respect, High Counselor, these are people we cannot protect. Our fleets are stretched too thin. These civilians would die without intervention." "That is not the point," Vexthor snapped. "The point is authority. The Council's authority." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Vexthor meant. If humans could protect people when the Council could not, what purpose did the Council serve? Finally, Nylith spoke again. "Perhaps we should consider a different approach. The humans have technology we need, especially their barrier systems, that stop harvester attacks. Maybe we should—" "You're not suggesting we beg them to return?" Vexthor interrupted, his yellow eyes wide with outrage. "Not beg," Nylith said carefully. "Negotiate. Offer better terms." To everyone's surprise, several Council members nodded in agreement. After months of failures and losses, even the proudest species were beginning to reconsider their position on humans. Vexthor looked around the room, realizing he was losing support. "Very well," he said reluctantly. "I will propose sending an envoy to negotiate humanity's return under more favorable terms." The motion passed unanimously. Even Vexthor voted for it, though his pride suffered greatly in doing so. Far from the Council homeworld on the colony planet of New Cascadia, Governor Lyrith stared at the sky with growing fear. Reports had come in about harvester ships approaching the planet. The colony was home to nearly 1 million people from various species, but it had minimal defenses. "The Council declared us strategically expendable," Lyrith told her advisors bitterly. "They won't send ships to help us." "What about evacuation?" asked her security chief. "With what ships?" Lyrith replied. "We have enough transport vessels for maybe 5,000 people. What about the other 995,000? Before anyone could answer, alarms began blaring across the colony's main city. People looked up to see objects entering the atmosphere, ships of some kind, but not the dreaded harvester vessels. These ships were sleek and black, with no markings or symbols. As the strange ships landed in the city's central plaza, Lyrith and her security team rushed to meet them. The lead ship's door opened, and armored figures emerged. They wore advanced, black armor that covered them completely, but their movements were unmistakably human. Their leader approached Lyrith and removed her helmet, revealing a woman with dark hair and serious eyes. "Governor Lyrith?" the woman asked. "I'm Captain Maya, Wong of the Earth Defense Force. We've detected harvester ships on approach to your world. They'll be here in less than 6 hours." Lyrith felt a mixture of relief and confusion. Earth Defense Force? But humans left Council space months ago. We did, Captain Wong confirmed. But we never abandoned our friends. We're here to offer evacuation for all civilians. All of them? Lirith asked in shock. There are almost 1 million people on this planet. We have 20 transport ships, Wong explained. Each can carry 50,000 people. We can get everyone out before the harvesters arrive. Lirith couldn't believe what she was hearing. The Council had abandoned them, calling their world strategically expendable. Yet here were humans, who had left the Council, coming to rescue everyone. But the Council declared this planet strategically expendable, Lirith said. Where will you take us? Somewhere safe, Wong replied simply. Humanity never abandoned its friends, only its failed allies. Lirith made her decision quickly. We accept your help, Captain. I'll order evacuation procedures to begin immediately. As the colony sirens sounded and people began moving toward the evacuation points, Lirith noticed more human ships arriving. But these weren't transport vessels. They were deploying something in orbit around the planet. What are those? She asked Wong, pointing to the sky. Barrier generators, the captain explained. Similar to what protects Earth's solar system. We're setting them up around your planet. To protect the evacuation? Lirith asked. Wong nodded. And to give the harvesters a surprise when they arrive. 6 hours later, the harvester fleet approached New Cascadia, expecting an easy conquest. Their long-range scans showed a planet rich in resources with minimal defenses. Perfect for harvesting. But as they moved into attack position, their sensors detected an energy field surrounding the planet, a barrier similar to the one that had protected the Trellics world. Before they could change course, the barrier activated, fully, extending outward in a rapid expansion. Several harvester ships were caught in the barrier's path. Instead of being destroyed, they simply stopped functioning. Their systems completely shut down as the energy field passed through them. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but many were too slow. One by one they went dark, floating helplessly in space. Inside the lead harvester ship, the alien commander watched in horror as his mighty fleet was disabled without a single shot being fired. On his communication screen, a message appeared. The Council abandoned these people. Humanity did not. 3 days later, a Council patrol finally arrived at New Cascadia. They had been sent to assess the damage after reports of harvester activity in the sector. What they found stunned them. The colony was empty. All citizens had been evacuated, leaving behind only buildings and infrastructure. In orbit around the planet floated the disabled harvester ships, still trapped in some kind of energy field that kept their systems offline without destroying them. The Council commander ordered his technicians to analyze the technology, but they couldn't even approach the field without their own systems beginning to fail. Send a message to Council headquarters, the commander ordered. The humans have technology far beyond what we thought. They evacuated an entire colony world and neutralized a harvester fleet without destroying a single ship. As his communications officer prepared the message, another officer approached with a data pad. Commander, we found this broadcast being transmitted on all frequencies from the planet's surface. The commander took the pad and read the simple message displayed there. The Council abandoned these people. Humanity did not. He stared at the words for a long moment. 9 months ago, the Council had thought they were punishing humans by threatening to remove them. Now it seemed the humans had been holding back all along. What else were they capable of that the Council had never suspected? For the first time, he felt genuinely afraid of what might happen if humans decided to do more than just rescue people. What if they decided to take action against the Council itself? 1 year had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. In that year, everything had changed. The harvesters now controlled nearly a third of what was once Council space. Trade between worlds had dropped to less than half its previous levels. Technology failures continued to spread as systems the humans had helped build broke down without their maintenance. The once mighty Galactic Council was facing the greatest crisis in its long history. In a private chamber deep within the Council headquarters, High Counselor Vexithor prepared for the most difficult mission of his career. After months of debate and several failed votes, the Council had finally unanimously approved sending a formal delegation to Sol System to ask the humans for help, and Vexthor himself would lead it. "The ship is ready, High Counselor," an aide informed him. "The diplomatic team is on board." Vexthor nodded silently. How had it come to this? A year ago he had been so certain that removing humans from the Council would restore order to the galaxy. Now he was about to beg them to return. "There's one more thing," the aide added nervously. "We've received reports of 3 more Council worlds falling to the Harvesters. The Krell Confederacy has withdrawn all support from Council operations. They say they will seek their own agreement with the humans." Vexthor closed his eyes briefly. The situation was deteriorating faster than he had feared. If more member species began breaking away to seek separate deals with humans, the Council itself might collapse entirely. "We must hurry," he said, gathering his formal robes. "The future of the Council depends on this mission." The journey to Earth's solar system took 3 tense days. The diplomatic vessel traveled through increasingly lawless space, where pirates and opportunists had filled the void left by retreating Council forces. When they finally reached the edge of Sol System, they were met by human patrol ships that appeared seemingly from nowhere. "Council diplomatic vessel," came a transmission from the lead human ship. "State your purpose." "This is High Counselor Vexthor of the Galactic Council," Vexthor replied, trying to maintain his dignity. "We request an audience with human leadership regarding matters of urgent, galactic importance." There was a long pause before the human ship responded. "Prepare to be escorted through the barrier. Any deviation from our flight path will be considered hostile action." As the human ship surrounded them, the barrier ahead shimmered and parted, creating an opening just large enough for their vessel to pass through. Vexthor and the other Council members moved to the viewing windows, eager to see what humans had created in their year of isolation. What they saw left them speechless. The entire solar system had been transformed. Massive structures orbited every planet. Mars, once a red desert world, now showed large blue-green patches as terraforming projects changed its surface. Enormous ships moved between construction yards around Jupiter and its moons, ships larger than anything the Council had ever built. "Impossible," whispered one Council member. "They couldn't have built all this in just 1 year." But the evidence was before their eyes. In just 1 year, freed from Council restrictions, humanity had advanced centuries beyond Council technology. Their escort guided them to a large space station orbiting Callisto, one of Jupiter's moons. As they docked, Vexthor prepared himself for what would surely be a difficult negotiation. To his surprise, they were not met by military leaders or politicians, but by a middle-aged human woman in simple white clothing. "Welcome to Callisto Station," she greeted them. "I am Dr. Sophia Hayes, director of the Human Cooperative. Please follow me." As they walked through the station, the Council members couldn't help but stare at the incredible technology around them. Clean energy systems with no visible power source, gravity that adjusted automatically as they walked, plants growing directly in corridor walls, providing both food and air purification. "Your achievements are remarkable," Vexthor admitted, reluctantly. "Thank you," Dr. Hayes replied with a small smile. "Without Council restrictions on our research, we've been able to implement many ideas that were previously forbidden." They entered a meeting room with a large circular table, much like the Council chamber but smaller and more welcoming. Windows looked out over Jupiter's swirling clouds and the busy shipyards in orbit. "Now," Dr. Hayes said as they all sat down, "why have you come?" Vexthor straightened his shoulders, gathering his dignity. "The galaxy faces unprecedented challenges. The Harvester invasions, trade disruptions, technology failures. The Council believes that together we could address these issues more effectively than separately. You want us to come back," Dr. Hayes stated simply. "We are prepared to offer special status," Vexthor continued, "autonomy in certain areas, leadership of the military response to the Harvester threat, a more prominent role in Council decisions." Dr. Hayes listened politely to the entire proposal before responding. High Counselor, humanity doesn't need the Council. We've thrived in our independence, but perhaps we can still help you. She activated a control on the table, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. It showed a new organizational structure, very different from the Council's hierarchical system. This is our counter-proposal, Dr. Hayes explained. The Interstellar Cooperative, an alliance of equals rather than a ruling body of elders. Mandatory mutual defense, shared technology, but with guarantees of cultural and developmental autonomy for all member species. The Council members studied the display with mixed expressions of interest and concern. This would dissolve the current Council structure entirely, one member objected. Yes, Dr. Hayes agreed. The old system has failed. The harvesters have proven that. It's time for something new. And if we refuse? Vexthor asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Then you'll face the harvesters alone, Hayes answered calmly. We've already established agreements with the Trellics Collective, the Krell Confederacy, and several other species. We've evacuated over 30 worlds that the Council abandoned. Those people are safe in habitats we've built throughout our system, and in neighboring stars we've begun to develop. She leaned forward slightly. Multiple species already support our cooperative model. Those we've been rescuing from harvester attacks and Council abandonment are eager for a new approach. The question is whether the Council species will join us or continue alone on their current path. Vexthor felt a complex mix of emotions: anger at being cornered, shame at the Council's failures, and a grudging respect for what humans had accomplished. You planned this, he realized. When you left the Council, this was your goal all along. Dr. Hayes shook her head. No, we simply wanted freedom to develop at our own pace. But when we saw how quickly the Council's systems began to fail without us, and how the harvesters took advantage of that weakness, we knew a new approach was needed. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the massive construction projects. Humanity has always excelled at building communities, High Counselor. Now we're building one that spans the stars. You're welcome to join us, but we won't be controlled again. Vexthor looked at his fellow Council members. Their expressions told him everything he needed to know. After seeing what humans had accomplished in just 1 year, and facing the continued harvester threat alone, they had no real choice. We will consider your proposal, he said formally, though everyone in the room knew what the answer would be. Dr. Hayes nodded. Choose wisely, High Counselor. The future of many worlds depends on it. As the Council delegation prepared to depart, Vexthor stood alone at a viewport, watching human ships move effortlessly through space. He thought back to that day a year ago when Commander Chen had removed her Council pin and walked out. We should have listened to them sooner, he said quietly to himself. A human aide waiting nearby overheard him. It's not too late, she said. That's kind of the point. Vexthor turned to her. Will your people really accept us as equals after how we treated you? The aide smiled. That's the thing about humans, Counselor. We're remarkably good at forgiving when someone's genuinely ready to change. As Vexthor boarded his ship for the return journey, he realized the humans had given the galaxy something more important than their technology or military strength. They had offered a new beginning, a chance to build something better than what had come before. And despite his wounded pride, he found himself hoping the Council would be wise enough to accept it. 5 years had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. 5 years since Commander Alara Chen had placed her Council pin on the table and walked away. In those 5 years, the galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The former Council chamber on the planet Axis Prime now hosted something new, the Interstellar Cooperative Assembly. Unlike the old Council chamber with its 12 elevated seats arranged in order of species, age, and status, this room featured a perfect circle of 87 equal positions. Representatives from each member species sat at the same height, with no special place of honor. Humans comprised barely 2% of the assembly, yet their influence was felt everywhere. Their technology, their ideas, and their unique approach to problem-solving had helped build this new galactic community. Today, the assembly hall was packed as Admiral Helena Chen, her hair now completely silver, but her posture still military straight, gave the final briefing on what many were calling the greatest achievement of the cooperative, the containment of the harvester threat. The combined fleets have successfully pushed the enemy back to a single star system, Admiral Chen reported, gesturing to a holographic map floating above the center of the room. The barrier technology now surrounds their home system completely. Will they ever be able to threaten other worlds again? Asked the representative from the Krell Confederacy, a species that had lost several colonies to harvester attacks. The barrier prevents their ships from leaving their system, Admiral Chen explained. But more importantly, our diplomatic team has opened communication with them for the first time. We're beginning to understand their society and why they attack others. This was perhaps the most surprising development. Where the Council had simply fought the harvesters for centuries, treating them as mindless enemies, humans had insisted on trying to understand them. They're not evil, Admiral Chen continued. They're desperate. Their sun is dying faster than normal, and they've been harvesting resources to try to save it. Our scientists are working with them now on better solutions. Murmurs of amazement spread through the assembly. The idea of helping the harvesters rather than simply defeating them was typically human. It was this kind of thinking that had changed everything. In research centers throughout cooperative space, mixed species teams developed technologies that would have been forbidden under old Council restrictions. Medical breakthroughs had extended lifespans across multiple species. The first true artificial intelligence with stable ethics systems now assisted with governance and logistics, making sure resources were distributed fairly across all worlds. Even former Council hardliners had adapted to the new way. In one corner of the assembly hall, Vexthor, no longer High Counselor but simply the representative of the axiomatic people, was deep in conversation with a team of human diplomats about how to approach a newly discovered species at the edge of cooperative space. We should proceed carefully, Vexthor advised. This species appears to be highly territorial. That's why we're sending a small team first, replied a young human diplomat. Just to establish peaceful contact. No show of force, no grand fleet. Just a simple hello. Vexthor nodded in agreement. 5 years ago, he would have insisted on a display of Council power to impress the newcomers. Now he understood the wisdom of the human approach. His people had lost much status in the transition from Council to cooperative, but they had gained much more in security, technology, and opportunity. After the assembly session ended, Commander Ilara Chen, now Cooperative Director Chen, stood at a large viewport watching ships of all designs moving through the busy space around the station. Human vessels with their distinctive sleek shapes flew alongside the coral-like ships of the Trellics, the crystalline structures of the axiomatic, and dozens of other unique designs. Quite a view, isn't it? Said a familiar voice. Chen turned to see Vexthor joining her at the window. Their relationship had changed dramatically over the years, from adversaries to cautious allies to something approaching friendship. It is, she agreed. I never imagined we would come so far in just 5 years. Do you regret your decision? Vexthor asked quietly. That day when you walked out? You took an enormous risk. If other species hadn't followed your lead, if the Council had united against you instead of fracturing. No, Chen replied thoughtfully. The old system wasn't working. The Council needed to learn that controlling everything doesn't create true stability. Innovation and adaptation are necessary for survival, and you knew we would fail without you, Vexthor observed. We knew you would learn, Chen corrected him with a small smile. That's the difference between humanity and the old Council. We always believed you could change. As they spoke, a young aide hurried up to them, excitement clear on her face. Director Chen, Representative Vexthor, we've received a message from the frontier. A new species has made contact. Their technology is unlike anything we've seen before. Tell me more, Chen encouraged her. They appear to travel through some kind of space folding rather than traditional propulsion, the aide explained. They've established position just outside our border markers and are sending greeting messages in multiple formats. Shall we summon the Security Council? Vexthor asked cautiously, old instincts briefly resurfacing. Chen smiled at him. No. Let's welcome them instead. She turned to the aide. Prepare a reception. Invite representatives from at least 20 different cooperative species to join the greeting party. Let's show our new friends what the cooperative is all about. As the message went out, ships from throughout assembly space began to form an honor guard to greet the newcomers. Human-designed vessels flew alongside ships from every member species, demonstrating through their unity that this was not the old council that feared differences, but something new, a true community of diverse peoples working together. Later, that evening, after the excitement had died down and preparations for first contact were underway, Chen found herself back at the viewport, looking out at the stars. So much had changed in 5 years. Worlds that had been on the brink of destruction were now thriving. Species that had been enemies for centuries now worked together, and humanity, finally free to develop at its own pace, had created wonders that benefited everyone. Was it worth it? Asked Admiral Helena Chen, joining her daughter at the window. Was what worth it, Mother? Ilara asked. The risk. Walking away from the council when we had no guarantee others would follow. Building all this. She gestured to the busy station around them, and the stars beyond. Ilara thought about the question for a moment. Yes, she said finally. Because we didn't just build better ships or weapons or technology. We built a better way for different species to live together. As they stood together watching the stars, alerts came in about the approaching newcomers. Once, such an encounter would have been met with suspicion and shows of force. Now, it was greeted with curiosity and openness, the human way that had gradually become the cooperative way. Perhaps that was humanity's greatest legacy, Ilara thought. Not the technology they created, not the barriers that protected worlds from harm, but the simple idea that different peoples could work together as equals, each contributing their unique strengths to build something greater than any could achieve, alone. And that idea, once planted, had grown to change the galaxy forever. The end.